So let's talk about how to get started with healing fear. And first, let's give it a little philosophical background, or at least my philosophy around this is that kind of like with primary colors, we have primary emotions. And these emotions make up all the other emotions, the secondary, the tertiary, whatever emotions. So fear is the primary negative emotion, and love is the primary positive emotion. The thing about fear is that if we don't clear a huge degree of our fear, we stay stuck on a certain level. You can't make it to certain realms of awakening if you are holding on to this fear. Because fear is basically a lack of trust in spirit. It's like if you know that you're going to reincarnate, you know you're never going to die, you know that dying is kind of like waking up from a dream, then you're not going to have the same level of fear as somebody who believes that death is the end, is total annihilation of all that they ever were and will ever be. That's a different experience. So healing fear is really important. Now, my primary method for this and everything else with emotional healing is to go into the center of the feeling on the physical level. So when it comes to fear, we have a flinch, okay? Whenever you are in a situation where there is fear, there will be a tightening up. Now, that tightening up, that flinching, could result in you being very stuck permanently. That flinch can download into your system and become pretty much permanent. And we all have a bunch of these little flinches stuck in our system. Now, when I say permanent, they don't have to be permanent. But if you don't do the work, they're probably not going to release on their own. Okay? So you have all of these little flinches. You have all these areas where you recoiled in fear. Even if you exploded later, the first thing that happened might be a flinch. And so that flinch is like a grabbing energy. It pulls in. And it creates an energy that pulls into a kind of self-protection. So it's like a knot that we have to untie. And so how do we do that? Well, number one, you need to feel the flinch in your body. So number one, when you have a fear, an active fear, it could be something that's just happening right now. It could be something that's kind of always there. The first thing that you want to do is feel, where am I flinching? Where in my body? Now, a good way to find that is to look along the center line of your body, feel along that area, and you have a bunch of chakras there. You don't have to believe in chakras or whatever. I don't care. It's just a useful tool. But there's a different fear where you flinch in your heart than if you flinch in your throat. Okay? there's a different feeling if you flinch all the way down at the lowest part, at the genitalia, at the anus, okay? The word tight ass is there for a reason. Being tight ass is a control, or anal retentive is another word, right? It comes from a fear of losing control that ends up in a holding tightness, right? But that would be different than heart or throat, solar plexus, all the different areas along. So if you can vaguely find, if I had to pick one area, where is the flinch? And go into that flinch. Feel it more rather than trying to make it go away. And then sit with it and let it kind of unfold. You know, when you take a straw and you push the paper down on the outside of the straw and it's all bunched up together, and then you put the water on it and then it opens up again? It's kind of like that. Your flinch is a contraction, but when you sit with it, it will start opening up. Now, a lot of times what happens, as soon as it starts opening up, it'll flinch again, right? Because it's afraid of opening up. To the flinch, to that area where you pulled back from life, from interaction, it's kind of like if you think you're going to get hit and you go like that, right? But you can also do it when you're going to be criticized, when you're going to be rejected, when you're going to be excluded, or you fear you're going to be excluded. You're going to be left out, whatever. Any of those things can cause that flinch. Now, when you allow the flinch, number one, to be there, to be flinching, to be flinched, then you just sit with it and feel what it is like. And you can start to feel the motivation behind the flinch. You'll tune into it. And then, after that, as it starts to open up, you'll feel the kind of hope, the kind of relaxation. And when it flinches again, you'll feel the fear. Just sit and kind of track that stuff. It's a way that you can do self-healing. Now, obviously, if you do a session with me, I can guide you through it, and it's going to make it easier, okay? It's like the difference of doing hypnosis with somebody guiding you and doing self-hypnosis, right? It's easier to kind of stay on track if somebody's guiding you. But I always like to tell you how to do it yourself, because if you do it yourself and you get to a kind of stuck point, a roadblock, whatever, then you can always reach out to me or somebody like me, and they can take you a little farther down the road than you would have gotten all by yourself. Anyway, what happens is finally that tension releases, that flinch lets go, and you realize you never needed it. It was never helping you. Now, there are a lot of things that we do in a moment of fear that are reflexive, and they do not really serve a purpose. Now, trigger alert, I use vivid, sometimes gross examples to illustrate what I'm saying, and sometimes people get very sensitive when I do that. If you're one of those people, then you might not want to listen anymore, and you might never want to listen to me again. And that's okay. Okay. But my analogy is like if somebody's pointing a gun at you, and you put your hands up in self-protection, are you really protecting yourself from a bullet? Probably not. Okay? But you're probably still going to do it because it's a natural human thing, right? You know, if a bear's coming at you, you might run or climb a tree, and both of those things are ineffective strategies against bear attack. And like I saw some viral video where this photographer, when the bear's running right at him, he runs at the bear and then the bear runs away. That takes training to do that. That's probably not going to be your first response to a bear running at you at full speed, right? So a flinch is a normal thing. It's as normal as something's is coming toward your eye and you blink. It's a natural reaction. But when we release the flinch, again, the first thing that's going to happen a lot of times is more fear, right? Fear that we are unprotected and that we are leaving ourselves open. The thing that comes along with fear, so if fear is the real emotion, the mental thing that often comes along with fear is superstition. So superstition tells the story of the fear and why the fear is justified and why we need to hold on to it, and it constructs a whole reality around what the fear is, that the fear is real, and that we need to keep flinching or else this bad thing will happen. In order to reach a state of love, spiritual, divine love, we can't have all these flinching responses. We have to clear those out. And the thing is, if you want to ascend, you need to let go of the lead weights that are tied to your ankles. And then you'll ascend. And one of the heaviest weights, and kind of the grandfather of all the weights, is fear. Again, fear is based on separation consciousness. It's based on a universe that doesn't really have your back. And it's based on fear of death. And a million people say, oh, I'm not afraid of death, I'm just afraid of da-da-da. Well, all fear in a way is fear of death. Fear of rejection, when it comes down to it, is fear of death. Okay? Fear of criticism is fear of death. Because it sparks the same response in the body. So, in order to start the healing process of healing your fear, you want to find the flinch, allow the flinch to be there, sit with it, and then watch it start to unravel. And then watch it try to come back together and re-flinch, and just stay with it. Just stay with it. See what pops up in your head. Just notice, but don't do a bunch of work on it. Just all we're doing, it's kind of like you build up the static electricity and then you touch that doorknob and you get the little shock and now all the static is gone. You touch the doorknob again, you're not going to get a shock, right? So you do have to have a little shock, right? You do have to feel the energy that you are releasing. Otherwise, you're not really releasing anything. So I hope this has given you an idea of how to get started on doing self-healing for your own fear issues. And anything that causes fear, you're going to realize there's a flinch in there. So just sit with it, and it will unfold. Because fear is not your natural state. Fear is a response to some kind of trauma. And we've all had plenty of those and plenty of reasons to generate those responses. Thanks very much for watching. If you'd like more information, you can follow the links below in the description, andysway.com. And if you want to get in touch with me to walk you through that, you can do a 1-hour phone session where we just go after these things one at a time. If you do a longer session, which is 2 hours, then we do some energy healing with it. That definitely is more effective than just doing it conversationally. But either way, these things can be cleared. It is my passion to do that, and I'd love to help you out. Otherwise, thanks a lot, and see you again for more information from my brain.